Because in Jamaica, they have bad man. We've all met a bad man. White guy, you've met a bad man before, right? We don't have bad man in Trinidad. And the weird thing is, you guys don't even differentiate from a pluralistic degree in Jamaica. Like, they don't say bad men. Like, Jamaica is full of bad men. They pluralize bad man. Yo, man, he's a bad man. But Jamaica have plenty bad man. But in Trinidad, we don't have bad man. We have badger. That's what they call them. That man is a real badger. But it sounds like Ba-John. But it's not just Ba-John. It's actually, if you had to phonetically break it down, it's actually called Bad John. That man is a bad John. But just like the movie Django, the D is silent. I mean, it's a bad John, buddy. Because that's just how Trinidad is. Trinidad and Tobago, we just had one guy named John who was a really bad guy. It's like, yeah, look bad John over there. So if you were a really nasty person, they would say, you're a bad John. Oh. But now, because of the time, things have escalated. We don't have bad John anymore. They call them Aizaman.
Next guest is Trinidadian born, Brooklyn raised, resident of Toronto. He has performed across Canada, the US, the Caribbean, South Africa, the UK, at such places as Apollo in New York and the Comedy Store in London. He has also performed at Just for Laughs and the Winnipeg Comedy Festivals, to name a few, and has written and toured with Russell Peters. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Jean-Paul. Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Hey, good evening.
Or Jean-Paul? No, not Gaultier.
I wish I had his money, but no, just the first half. Just the first half.
I welcome Jean-Paul to Goggles and Giggles. Jean-Paul, first let me apologize for the little delay.
No, stop with that. Matthew was worth it, man.
We got
Matthew was more than worth it. It's always great to see someone of that age and that generation actually doing something and aspiring to something other than trying to be a professional gamer. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Zesso, someone who plays Fortnite or some kind of YouTuber or something. So
Jean-Paul, so good to have you here on Goggles and Giggles. So you are Trinidadian born, Brooklyn raised.
I'd say more Toronto raised than Brooklyn. Brooklyn was a very tiny slice of the story, but
it was part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
How confused are you?
I mean, that's just par for the course. You know, when you're Trinidadian, immigrant lifestyle. So is you go where they take you. So, but it is a little, from a comedic standpoint, it's a little confusing just because I'm still trying to figure out what my exact story is. You know what I mean? So I feel like I have so much to cover, but at the same time, I'm learning to embrace the journey. I'm learning to embrace all of it and tell my story, which I think is what life is supposed to be. Tell your story. As Matthew said, don't compete against anyone else. Compete against yourself. And that's ultimately where I think I'm continuing to head in that in the navigation of this journey. So
so you've been doing comedy for 20 plus years, for a long time, for a while. And so how did it start? I'm going to ask you, how did it start? How has it changed? And more importantly, how will you say it has changed you?
How has comedy changed, or how have I changed to comedy?
Well, you can approach it. First, tell me how you got started, and then tell me how it has changed over the years.
To be honest with you, how it started all was I realized at an early age that I was funny, and I know most Trinis say that, but I understood that I had a natural sense of timing, and it was easy to gauge that by people's response to saying something off the cuff, or off the top, you know what I mean? And I just continued to develop that. And I also was always a big fan of, and still am a huge fan and student of the comedy game. I lucked out in my parents, growing up in the 70s, being fans or having albums, like actual vinyl albums of Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor and George Carlin and Steve Martin and all of these people who were hugely influential in my comedy development, to then when I eventually, so what changed everything for me was experiencing Eddie Murphy, and I would have been around 12. And then once I saw Eddie Murphy, I was like, yeah, that is it. I'll go in for that. That's it for me. So
yeah. And so how has it changed you? Your journey through your comedy career. How has that impacted your life and changed Jean-Paul as a person?
The funny thing is, in the beginning, it was such a huge, because being the only child and being the only child of immigrant parents, so tell me, we leave Trinidad and Tobago so you could come to Toronto and be a jackass? That is what you're telling me. So it was not the most supported decision once I told them. And luckily for me, I had no siblings, so there was no one to be compared to. There was no, why can't you be like your brother? Why can't you be like your sister? Right. And I was just stubborn and too stupid to know any better. And I said I was going to follow my dream. And that's all I wanted to do, was just follow this crazy dream of trying to be a comedian, because I knew I was something I was good at. I wasn't the most sports. I wasn't the most athletic. I'm not stupid, but I wasn't the most intellectual. I wasn't the most, you know what I mean? And I knew for sure that this was my talent, and I said I was going to chase it. And luckily for me, I continued to do that. And how it changed for me was, in the beginning, it was just talent. And I knew I was naturally funny, so I relied on that. And then the further I went in the industry and the further I went in the comedy game, I realized, all right, now I have to work at it. Now there needs to be preparation. Now there needs to be, research done. Now there needs to be, so it was, the entire thing has been figuring out how to make all the pieces fit. So from the talent to the instinct to the writing to the trusting in every, you know what I mean? So that's been the biggest that's been the biggest part of this whole thing, and I love all of it.
So comedy has kind of essentially been part of your growing up and your maturing. It's been
my high school, my college, my university, my master's degree, my PhD, my job. It's literally been and continues to be my entire life, which is something I am more than thankful for, and I give thanks to God and for allowing me to still continue to believe in myself and all that kind of good stuff. So it's all I know. Comedy is all I know.
I want to touch on the fact that, because Kivo mentioned it earlier, where he thanked you for the
me.
Yeah, me? I was like, Jean-Paul never do nothing for no. I'm kidding. And I have to say thank you as well, because you gave me the opportunity to perform in front of a very big audience when I didn't think I was ready for it. And so I do have to thank you for that as well, for giving us the opportunity to also experience that, so thank you. You're
very welcome. I'm very unselfish in the sense, and I know some people might say, hey, so and so might not have been ready, and I'm not specifically speaking about you or Kivo.
But you better not. Not.
But my whole thing is, at the end of the day, you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn from it, and that's the beauty of comedy. I think what people fail to realize is nobody has great days in their job all the time.
Every day.
You know what I mean? Whether you're a banker, a lawyer, a doctor, a police, you know, so far less a comedian, you know, and even worse or even harder to be a comedian because people have specific types of humor that they like. So you could be as funny as you want. Your jokes could be as well crafted as they are. But if that person isn't into that, if that person only likes political humor or blue humor or racial humor or heady humor or knock jokes or puns or whatever it is, if you're not that person, you're not funny to them. It doesn't mean you're not funny. And so I knew you guys were funny. I knew you both were funny. So I was like, why wouldn't I give you guys the opportunity? Because I would have loved growing up for somebody to give me the opportunity coming up to at least experience it. So even if it doesn't go as well as you would like it to, you know next time what the adjustments are going to be. And if you don't have the opportunity, then you can't learn. So
Yep. Okay. So tell me, because I know as comics, people always think that we are telling a joke or that we want to be funny, regardless of the scenario. You go anywhere, it's like, you being serious?
Tell me a joke now.
Oh yeah, tell me a joke now. How difficult is it for people to take you seriously? How difficult has it been?
It's very easy for people to not take me seriously because people, most of the time, people don't even think I'm funny because I'm your consummate introverted extrovert. I'm only extroverted around people I'm comfortable with. And if I don't know you and we're not friends or we don't run in the same social circles, I'm very quiet. And 99.9% of the time, I'm just observing and taking in what my surroundings are, looking to see where the exits are in case I need to escape. I'm not, but if I'm around my people, and people I'm comfortable with, I'm more than likely probably one of the funniest guys, if not the funniest person in the room, just because I'm comfortable. And I know I have that kind of skill set. But for the other people, I have mastered something called RMF, which is called resting Mitch face. So
because it's so funny as a comic, you go out and somebody say and they're like, tell me a joke, you know, and you're funny, and I'm like, well, when you meet your mechanic outside,
nobody else does that. No, hey, fix my car or doctor.
Fix my car. Hey, I see you here. Check me. You don't do anybody else that.
Nobody else does that. It's the occupational hazard. It's an occupational hazard. So it's one of the things I hate, but it's obviously one of those things that you have to be aware of and take it with a grain of salt, as they say.
Yeah.
Preferably pink Himalayan salt because I'm health conscious. So.
Right. Something this pink Himalayan salt seems to be popular too. So, you've performed in Trinidad a few times.
Yeah.
So, How do you prepare for a Trini show? Like,
lots of praying and meditation. Just to be honest with you, I've performed around the world. And Trinidadian audiences still to this day, to me, have to be probably one of the toughest audiences in the world. And I honestly think it's because every single Trini thinks they're funny. So, like I said, if they're not digging what you're doing, I'm sure they're saying this, you're going, "I funny and man on stage, boy. You making me laugh, boy. I sure I could tell better joke than that man." So it's always a kind of pressure. But here's what I will say. When they do embrace you, they embrace you fully, and then you could do no wrong. So that's the beautiful part of it. But still one of the toughest crowds that you do.
So when you go home, how do you deal with, just like you say, so how do you deal with it? If they are, because I'll give you one of my very first experiences home, because I didn't start comedy in Trinidad, I started comedy here.
In Florida, okay.
And so that when I went home and I performed, the very, very first time was in 2017. And I remember asking the guy, I was like, can I curse? And he said, man, do whatever you want. It was Robin Foster. He was doing a show at Kaiser Blues called Kicks from Kaiser. And he said, man, do whatever you want. And I did. And I felt the energy in the room just suck all. People just look at me like, really? And I just wanted the earth at that moment to open me up, because you're right. One, Trini, we do have a very, very, very good sense of humor as a culture, but we are also we could be very prude too. I mean,
Yes,
we will cuss
agreed.
by a bar
Agreed.
and we will cuss on the beach, but somehow we don't want to hear it when we spend our money. You know, we a lot of people, not everybody. There are people who appreciate it, but for the most part, people are like, I don't want to pay for you to cuss. You know, so how have you dealt with? For me, I just ended my set and just walked off the stage because I just felt like, oh. How have you dealt with that, if ever?
To be honest with you, I push through it. Being, I guess, a veteran comedian,
Correct.
one thing what I don't want to do is the audience to dictate what I want. You know what I mean? It's like if Matthew was playing traditional jazz and you go into a thing and he's like, I don't want to hear jazz, I want to hear reggae. And you know, he's not going to change to reggae because the audience wants to hear reggae. If I'm going to if I'm going to a rock club to listen to rock music, I'm not going to expect, I don't want to hear this, I want to hear, hip hop, you know what I mean? So my whole thing is I try not to be gratuitous, but I try to express myself. And I also let them know. And I'm okay with people not liking me. If it's one thing, the worst thing you can do is expect everybody to like you. And the wrong way, the best way to fail is to try to get everybody to like you. I want to cultivate my audience. And and whoever is going to follow me is going to follow me, and whoever is not going to follow me, I'm completely okay. I don't want you on this journey along with me. You know what I mean? So there's tons of people that like Michael Jackson that didn't like Prince, and a ton of people who love Prince that didn't like Michael Jackson. Did that mean either of them were, less talented? No, it just means that that's just not your style. So the one thing I always remind myself is stay true to myself. And if it's going to cost me peace of mind, then the price is too much. So I'm just going to continue to do me. I don't need validation. I validate myself.
Right. I like the Trinidad and Tobago flag behind him and the colors like that. It take you. You know what I mean? Like it just embodies who you are.
My favorite colors.
Yeah.
Those 3 colors are my favorite colors.
Mine too. So you are doing something on Instagram called the kitchen table. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know it seems. Are you hearing me? Because I see as if you're stuck. Okay, you're back.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're doing something called the kitchen table. You've also something happened. I think we lost Jean-Paul for a moment. We're going to see if he comes back in. In the meantime, we are going to run some of Jean-Paul's work for you to experience him on stage. So right, we're back. Did
they experience me?
Yes. No, not yet. But they experienced me trying to send a message very quickly. And I just want to quickly remind you all, those who are watching, first I want to thank you all for joining us, and to thank those who have already donated. And I want to encourage those who have not yet donated to do so, whatever you can, and in any way you can, whether it's by donating on the GoFundMe or just sharing this live and getting more people involved in what we're trying to do. So
I also want to commend you for doing something like this, and I also want to encourage people to donate to anything and anyone you guys can to help out, because this situation is literally unprecedented, and people need to stop thinking that it's only happening to them exclusively. This is literally a global pandemic where people who normally would be doing for themselves would be able to get by, but when it's a forced lockdown and forced shutdown on a lot of things, a lot of people feel it, and quickly. If you thought when you were working bills came fast, think about not working or not having the ability to work. Bills come even faster and they pile up. So please donate, and congrats to you for, I tip my hat to you for even putting this together.
Thank you, and Jason too.
Jason too.
Yeah. So thank you. And so we were chatting a bit about you. I have been on your show called Red, White, and Laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also do a show called The Kitchen Table.
The Kitchen Table with Hans Diefenthaler.
With Hans Diefenthaler. So tell us about those two productions, how and what it means and stuff like that.
So I'll tell you, first I'll talk about Red, White, and Laugh. Red, White, and Laugh was something that I wanted to do. So when everything got locked down and everybody had to move online, I thought it would be a great way. I've had the luxury of being intergenerationally connected comedically to comics and storytellers in Trinidad and Tobago who I absolutely adored. And I wanted to give a showcase and a platform to the lesser known personalities, to the people that I know out there and to anybody else who joined in to watch. And I was lucky enough, and I'm gonna continue to do it, but I was lucky enough to have Nikki Crosby, Rhodey, yourself. Most of you guys know Kwame Weeks. He's the guy who does the social media behind the bars kind of thing. Right. I've had Tivo. I've had Simidi Trini, Kareem Rockwell. Who else have I had? Jarrell Best Mitchell. So these are all comedians who are still doing the good thing, who are still being part of this comedy fabric and comedy quilt that is Trinidad and Tobago, continuing to carry the mantle. Rest in peace to probably one of the greatest comedic icons of Trinidad and Tobago, Sprang Alang. But to carry the mantle, that Sprang has allowed to happen. Errol Fabian, shout out to Errol Fabian for getting Gael back. The Nikki Crosbys, the Tommy Josephs, the John Agitations, to the Beulahs, to you name it. So this is my way to hopefully continue to help with the legacy that is Trinidad and Tobago comedy, and that's what I want. Part of when I look back. To say that I was at least supportive and helpful in trying to get the voices out there, because I think some of the comedy that comes out of Trinidad and Tobago rivals any country in any region comedically. And I honestly believe that. And I'm not just saying that because I have a Trinidad flag behind me.
I'm not about to say. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but I'm glad you said it. And so where can people tune in and what day and time?
It used to be on Thursdays. So you would have to check my Instagram, my IG, which is Jean Paul Comedy, or Jean Paul Comedy on IG, on Instagram. And the other show that I do, which I have been doing consistently on Tuesdays at 8:30 on the same The Kitchen Table Official. You'd have to follow that page with Hans Diefenthaler from Kes the Band. We basically decided that we wanted to do a podcast, and traditionally, if you know anything about kitchen tables in any region in the Caribbean, everything happens there, from shit talk to old talk to relationships breaking, politics, interventions, So
is this the kitchen table with the plastic tablecloth on it, or what? Are we talking plastic?
Well, we haven't been able to. The funny thing is, originally when things were open, we wanted to get a actual traditional, like a specific tablecloth that we wanted to put on and set up on the table. But obviously we've because he's in Trinidad and Tobago and I'm in Toronto, so we've had to improvise. So there's been no actual physical kitchen table.
Because it's not a kitchen tablecloth if it's not plastic and the corners not torn.
The reason I don't want the plastic, I'll take the cloth. I don't want the plastic because if it get too hot, it'll get sticky and this thing falls.
No, but I see that, and then so when you peel it off, part of the red from the little thing on the
stick on the table.
That's the idea. You either want authenticity or you don't want authenticity.
So you telling me what to do with my show? You my producer now, or use Jason now?
Oh, good, Paul. All that's good stuff.
But people should check out The Kitchen Table because we've literally had some insanely great guests. This Tuesday we have DJ Private Ryan. We've had Jillionaire. We've had DJ Bravo. We've had Russell Peters. We've had Finesse Mitchell from Saturday Night Live. We've had Tedderson John. We've had Nadia Batson. We've had some,
I haven't been able to because it runs the same time we do Trinbago freestyle. So by the time, sometimes I think I get a little tail end of it, but most times I haven't been able to see it.
That's okay. And eventually once we figure out.
I'm not saying I feel badly. I'm just, we just.
I'm glad to hear you doing your thing too. That's the beauty. There's enough room on social media for everybody, and eventually we're going to break them down into clips and have them, live in a library that you can go and check out and archive it as well, so people can go and check out, some really, really interesting. And I think next week, I believe we have Allison Hines. So this Tuesday coming up, we have DJ Private Ryan, and I think the following one we have Allison Hines, and then things. So yeah.
Okay. So can you swim? Because this is.
Yes, I can.
You can.
I can. I taught myself to swim, almost to the detriment of my mother. I went probably at like 4 years old, saw a pool, ran because I was faster than my mom. Just jumped in a pool, and she thought I was going to drown, and she couldn't swim, and she jumped in the pool, and she almost drowned trying to save me, and then I just swam off.
This sounds like a lifestyle show too. I like it. This sounds like the making of a lifestyle movie.
So, and since then I've loved swimming. I love swimming. I absolutely adore swimming. I think it's one of the greatest exercises you can do, and it's actually kind of zen, and it, for me, it mirrors stand-up comedy, because swimming is usually a solitary, so, and that's how I see stand-up. It's just you to focus, as fast as you can go, as slow as you can go, and it's just you versus yourself, even though you're competing with someone else. Ultimately, it's you challenging yourself, and that's what I love about, I love the mental that goes along with the physical,
So I'm glad that because you kind of segued into my next question, because I want you to describe for me your swimming your comedy career using swimming terms.
I'd probably say it's been is the correct term a medley?
Medley,
it's been a medley, because it's literally been a mix of everything. It's I've been able to pace myself, with the front crawl. It's been a bit of a struggle trying to, butterfly, and then sometimes I've had to power through it with the breaststroke, and sometimes, I've been able to be selfish and just focus on what I want to do with a nice, comfortable backstroke, just kind of admiring what's above and giving thanks to who and what is, above me in the sky, giving me the ability to kind of, have a relationship with. So it's literally been a bit of everything. And sometimes I've had to stop and just tread water, when I don't know which direction to go, just kind of tread and figure out what stroke you're going to use next.
What's next? So, Sharpol, I want to thank you.
Thank you
for being a part of Goggles and Giggles. And before you go,
I wish I could have been funnier. I wish I could have been funnier, but I know I like I said, I'm the introverted extrovert.
Funnier than no. This has been amazing. Again, people. Are you
going to show the clip? I'd love to watch the clip as people watch the clip.
We're going to try. We've been having a little technical difficulties, because I told him, and he's been trying to fix it. So we're waiting. So hopefully, if we don't show it now, we'll probably try and show it at the end of the show. Okay. But while he's working on it, but parting words for Trinidad and Tobago, for our viewers, tell them something, because they opened up, they relaxed some restrictions, but not for sport, not for athletics, so that people are still feeling it. We all are, even here, everywhere. It's global, like you said earlier. But my heart is always been home, and so that So what will you say to them?
It's funny, because as new as this pandemic is, or new as this, what we're all going through, COVID or coronavirus or whatever it is you want to call it, I always I'm grounded by the words of our elders. And this is one of those times that I wish my grandmother was still alive, just to hear what she would have to say. And I know one of those things she would say is, sometimes you just had to hold some strain and just hold some strain and remember you come from a community. And one of the things I loved about being from Sangre Grande is the community, the sense of a small town that felt like you were related to everybody, you know. So remember to support each other. Remember, you're not in this alone. There's no shame in asking for help. There's no shame in asking for some kind of support, because, you know, mentally this is probably one of the most draining things in the entire world, and it's tough. And sometimes if you want to cry, just cry. If you want to cuss, just cuss. But, you know, make sure that you have somebody or somebodies that you can, you know, turn to in these times, because it's not just you, and there's no way they're not going to understand what you're going through. So hold some strain, and just listen to the Prime Minister, because I want to come back home. I want to go to Tobago. I want to, I want to drink a nice cool stag, and, you know, some bacon shrimp on maracas, and, and just be bareback in the gallery, you know what I mean? So
I couldn't believe you just said you're from Sandy Grande. You should. That's not even Trinidad and Tobago. You should have told me that before. I think
you know damn well you can't go Mayaro without cutting or Manzan without cutting through. So I mean, know what you getting on with. You can't go Coco self without cutting through Sandy Grande.
You're right. So thank you a million billion times.
You don't even need to go through Tongue to go Maracas. You can go around and cut through Santa Cruz. So don't tell me Tongue is Trinidad and Tobago.
It's true. You're right. You
could go around. Sangre Grande. What is Katrina? Is Arima tonight in Grande, or is in Grande tomorrow? So
this was amazing. Thank you. I wish you everything good and wonderful, everything, and hopefully soon we share this.
Yeah, man. You know we will. As they say, we'll come straight and we'll get through this together, man. So and everybody, make sure you support the aquatics and this entire GoFundMe with whatever, and anything helps, whether it's $5, $2, whatever it is, every little bit helps, man. So, and I really appreciate it. And everybody stay safe, and God bless.
Yeah. Bye. Take care.